I know so many people are like, I have so many stories to tell. I'm like, that's funny because you're not telling any of them.
Terry Rice is a keynote speaker, author, and coach for high performers specializing in storytelling. He had a major unlock in his work, though, when he learned to lean into the dark side of his story instead of shying away from it.
When you get on stage or on social media and admit your biggest faults, it's actually the shortcut to building authority.
Listen, y'all. Terry Rice with us, who I unapologetically told him I freaking loved an interview that I heard with him a few months ago around storytelling and being more honest with building your brand. I think the word that you like to use is audacious, which is a hell of a word, Terry. So tell me why. I know you talk you talk about resilience and a lot of things in your keynote speeches, but storytelling is a through line through it all. And I think we all know storytelling is important, but it's hella hard sometimes, especially when it's your story. Hella hard to tell. So bring me back to the moment when you decided to lean in and start learning how to tell better stories.
It was actually after I told a very powerful story on stage in front of hundreds of people in Boise, Idaho, as part of ConvertKit's Craft and Commerce event. And I talked about losing my son on stage for the first time ever. And very clumsily got through that part of the conversation because it wasn't planned. But the impact of it was just incredible. Just so many people rushing up to me afterwards saying, thank you for this. Like, how do I find the strength to tell my story? And just carrying on. And I was like, okay, this is the lane I need to be in, because I've given so many talks over the years and I've never had feedback like that before. But I was like, okay, well, how do I approach this very sensitive topic in a way that is just letting people ease into that part of the conversation through storytelling? And that's when I actually started reading books on it and studying up how to actually tell stories properly.
Damn. Well, we're just freaking diving in, dude, off the bat. You said it wasn't planned. Tell me about that, because as a professional speaker, the folks say you come prepared, you don't throw curveballs, and that's a pretty big decision. Was that a decision you made on stage or just really close to the event?
Really close to the event, but let's go back to like the illusion of perfection as a speaker. I think so many speakers like focus on sounding perfect and having the perfect delivery that they're just boring. They're extremely boring, right? Because they're not showing enough of their humanity by even slipping up a little bit to get the audience involved, or they're not talking to the audience ad-libbing because they're like, "Oop, that's not in the script," right? So I don't subscribe to that belief where you have to be perfect, because I've seen people deliver stuff perfectly and it was perfectly boring. But on my end, you asked a question like, where did it come from? The day before I spoke on stage, there was a private mastermind for some of the other speakers and like VIP members of this event. And people got really real in that mastermind. Like, people were like crying, saying things like, look, I don't make as much money as it looks online. I feel like a fraud. Another person felt like a phony because he grew up like just very, very poor and was like, at any moment, I feel like someone's going to tap me on the shoulder and tell me I don't belong here. So when I was in that atmosphere, I was like, okay, this is the zone to be more vulnerable, not in a way where it's like you're just doing it for attention, or authentic, which is unfortunately a buzzword now. Like, those people really set the scene for me to have a real connection with the audience the following day. And that's where it came from.
You said something without saying it. Them being vulnerable and real unlocked something in you, which gave you the quote permission, right, to step into that yourself. I think that's what's so interesting about us being willing to share more vulnerable stuff, is it's not just about our story. It's about unlocking something for other people where they go, damn, I want to share too. When I think, and I'm curious what happened on stage and stuff, when I think about sharing stuff that I haven't shared yet, I think, man, I would freaking break down and it would be not articulate. And how are people going to view me, especially when you're coming in as like an authority, an expert on something, and then sharing something so raw? What did you learn through that experience about that side to things? Because you, I'm assuming, got paid to come in to speak, to be an authority, and here you are showing a weakness.
It's actually the shortcut to building authority because it builds, again, I keep on using the word authenticity, but that's what it is. I mean, when you get on stage or on social media and admit your biggest faults, your biggest challenges, whatever they may be, people trust you more. And then later on, when you say, hey, sign up for my program, I can help you get XYZ, they're like, oh, I believe that guy. Because if he was going to lie, he would have lied about all that other embarrassing stuff or sad stuff that he talked about. So it's this unlock that you see a lot of bigger creators and bigger brands have. Like they talk about this time when this really bad thing happened and all of a sudden they overcame and they want to help you too. Like everyone has this story within them. Some people are just better at telling it and some people are better at marketing it as well. So on my end, I realized that I and a lot of other people already have these amazing stories trapped inside of us that would get us recognized and rewarded for who we are, not just what we do. And that's where that audacity comes from. You have to be brave enough, audacious enough to actually share these things. And that's when you get that reward. So how did it feel? I mean, it felt like a release because for years I've been hiding behind this facade, which I wasn't lying about anything. I was just like covering up some of the challenges I've gone through, including battling alcoholism, losing my family members, so on and so forth. But now that I can just be myself, it's like, okay, cool. I can talk about whatever I want, but people are actually getting the full version of me. And the response to that has been much better than anything that's happened over the previous years.
I've asked this question a lot on the show, but I'm going to keep asking it because I think people say it in different ways and have a different perspective. I'm going to ask it to you too about gauging when it is time to share some of those audacious stories. Because I know you said it took you a few years to talk about it publicly. I know you mentioned the people being vulnerable and stuff, but what else were some signs that you were ready to actually go there publicly?
I think for anyone, the first question is, what's the point? Like, why are you sharing this stuff? Because once it gets out there, you can't control how people respond to it. So if nobody cares or they're like, they have the opposite reaction where they're a bit rude, it has to be worth it. So it's like, what's the point of sharing this information, first of all? And then second of all, it's like, I think, okay, what's the lesson? What's the universal lesson that I can share with people so that if they're in a similar situation, not the same degree perhaps, that they can get through it, right? So it's like, what repeatable feedbacks are you sharing or repeatable frameworks are you sharing in regards to how you got through this challenge that other people can benefit from as well? And again, the third thing is just being audacious enough to post. Like you actually got to post it. And because I know so many people are like, I have so many stories to tell. I'm like, that's funny because you're not telling any of them. So it's like, it really is just being strong enough to tell them and bold enough to tell them because that's when you actually get the impact from it.
I'm going to steal that because I hear that too. I have so much to tell. And then they're not actually doing it. You said on your LinkedIn, I'm going to read this to you. This is a part of your bio. Most people don't struggle with talent. They struggle with positioning. They know their expertise is valuable, but they don't know how to tell their story, attract the right opportunities, or build a system that turns their knowledge into revenue. That's where I come in. And I highlighted they don't know how to tell their story. And that's what I wanted to focus on with you today. But let's back up to that first sentence first about just positioning.
Mm-hmm.
Some of my favorite creators, I can tell you exactly the thing in their life that was the turning point. Mm-hmm. You have Lewis Howes, who broke his arm playing football on his sister's couch, and then he, went on LinkedIn, yada, yada, yada. Brendan Farbstein, he was bullied heavily in high school and ended up changing laws in his state to teach empathy in his high school. I can point to these specific moments because these people have done an incredible job at telling their story over and over and over again. But sometimes when we look at our life, we think, well, my story is not that extraordinary. And even worse, I guess, is maybe I have so many micro moments that shaped who I am. How do I pick the thing that I want people to remember about me? And big ass question, Terry Ross, but let's go. How do you help someone figure out those key stories to focus in on?
Yeah. I think just kind of going back to the beginning, a lot of people that I work with, they left corporate to become entrepreneurs. And the first story they have to tell themselves is, I have value outside of my organization or the logos on my resume. And I tell people, like, if you've ever been paid for a job, then you can get paid as an entrepreneur too, because obviously you have value to provide the world. So that's the first story, just to kind of get out of
That's
the way
good.
initially. Otherwise, things don't go well. But I would say, like, just dump all your stories on a sheet of paper or a Google Doc, or say it out loud and transcribe it, but get all those stories out and then actually start telling them, because your
Mm.
audience will tell you which one's the most poignant. And you might know off the top of your head, like, these three are really good, whatever it is,
Mm.
cool. Then if you have them, start telling them. If not, just get used to sharing little everyday things, not like the time you almost failed out of college. Like, hey, I went to the supermarket and they had apples. I like apples. I went home and made applesauce. Like, something better than
Right.
that. But I think great storytellers are extremely mindful. So as they're going throughout their day, that's when they're discovering their stories. And they're thinking to myself, okay, I had this experience. This was different. And I'll give you an example in a moment. What's the lesson in this for my audience? So here's the example. I live here in Brooklyn, and there is this Tesla Cybertruck parked in the road. So the Cybertruck, you know, they look like they're very distinguishable
Yeah.
as Tesla trucks. And someone had stickers all over it that said, I bought this before Elon went crazy. I bought this before Elon went crazy. Like 15 stickers all over the car, right? So for me, I was like, oh, this is a pattern interrupt. Let me take a look at this. So I made a video of it, and the post I'll put up on is, it's not going to be about Elon Musk. It's not going to be about politics. It's going to be about over explaining yourselves, because my audience
Mm.
has that problem sometimes, over
Mm.
explaining themselves on a sales call, when they're pitching, when they're networking or whatever. So the easy route to go would be to take a shot at Elon or Tesla. I don't want to do that because they ain't my thing. But I think double clicking, like, what is the story behind the story? Like, what is the moment behind the moment? Like, what many people almost miss if they didn't just like zero in on this single moment. That's what I enjoy helping people do. That way, you never run out of ideas, and everything you share doesn't have to
Mm.
be so grand. It can be something about you playing with your kids over the weekend, or like a good book you read, or something like that.
Yeah. But what about the origin story though? Like with you, you've had a corporate success, you've had business success, and then I love one of your presentations, you show this ascending line of all your success, and then you show the other side of the line with all the pain that you've been through, and
Mhm.
showing like, hey, people see this, but this is also the thing. You've highlighted loss, like tremendous loss in your life, alcoholism. um, Sometimes I think there's so many shifts that's made Heather. It's like, which ones do you choose to highlight and which ones you don't, without overwhelming people with TMI? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I hate using Lewis as a continual example. It's just such a good one where when I think of him, I think of the broken arm on the couch.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And I don't think everybody necessarily has that one moment. They have all these moments.
Mhm.
So figuring out which one's the important one, how would you help someone like me?
If it were you, what I would do is have you, first of all, tell me who you're trying to impress with these stories, right? What is your target audience? Because you can have different origin stories for different audiences. So if I'm
Mm,
talking to entrepreneurs, I would say, hey, here's how I got started in my career. I got laid off and then I did this XYZ, right? If I'm
yeah,
talking to like other parents, I would talk about like how I became a parent. So you can have
yeah.
more than one origin story. You can have conflicting ones. But the way that I would work with you is to have you just dump out any story that you think is poignant in your life, right? One that you've told before, one that has meaning, one that shows a clear transition between the old you and the new you based on something you
Mm,
experienced or learned. And
mm.
then I would take all of those, pop them into my AI prompts and say, based on who she's trying to impress, what she's selling, what story is the most marketable that can be told over and over again that will really drive home into her audience who she is and why she's a good person to help them. So it's you have to look at all the stories in aggregate, and some are going to be like sub stories that you tell individually to support the main story. But I would just do that story diary first, do an analysis of that, and see which one makes the most sense based on what you're trying to do and who you're trying to impress, essentially.
You just said AI prompts.
Lots of AI prompts. Yeah, I said the A word.
Talk to me about it.
Yeah. Well, what's your opinion on it first? Let me get your angle so I can know where you're coming from.
I Every Monday at 1, I have a 1 hour conversation with a friend of mine who is studying AI, and I'm studying AI, and we go very philosophical, spiritual, weird with it, where we're pro AI, pro. I use it every day. It's open right now. Um, comma, also love storytelling and creativity and art. And there's a big question mark around what is our role as storytellers within an AI world? So I'm late to the game. I'm 38. I just started learning storytelling about 2 years ago. I'm reading all the books. I'm learning script writing. I'm trying to figure it out. And part of me goes, well, what the hell do I even need to learn the save the cat method? Do I need to
Mhm.
figure out all of this stuff if AI is just going to do it for me? What is
Yeah.
my role as a human, as a creator, as a spiritual being when these tasks are being taken away? And I try to look at it optimistically
Mhm.
because that's the choice I want to make. Also, it feels like I feel sad because I really enjoy the creative work and I don't want
Mhm.
somebody coming in and grabbing it from me.
Yeah. I'll give you my take on it, which is this. In regards to content creation, we talk about other stuff too. But when it comes to content creation, the way I think about it when I'm using AI is like, let's say we're trying to build something, right?
Okay.
I'm the architect of the story. Like, I'm going to say, like, here's how I want the story to go. I'm also the visionary. I'm the person who's living this life where I'm observing these things and then sharing back what I think is going to be interesting to my audience. What I don't have to be is like the builder, right? If we're like talking about a
Mm.
building, like there's an architect. Okay, here's what's going to look like. Someone else is building the building, right? And I also don't have to be the editor, if you want to say it that way, making sure that everything flows properly, has a strong hook and everything. So for me, I focus more on just having interesting stories to tell and letting AI know, like, this is the point, this is the key takeaway from this story. It's
Mm.
about not over explaining yourself. I'm going to have a video of this Tesla truck with all these bumper stickers on it that I described earlier. Create a story that highlights how absurd this is, but then also reflects back to other people, making them think, hey, are there times when I've been over explaining myself as well? Then give them one tip on how to not do that going forward, and with the CTA to book me for a coaching call. So, like, I was walking around life experiencing this stuff. I was mindful enough. Then I dumped all that into AI and said, create this content. So
Okay.
that's my feeling. Like, because even with the direction I just gave you, a lot of people can't tell stories that well without proper training. They just see a Cybertruck, like, oh, that's stupid, dude. They keep on going. Whereas, like, if
Right.
you're used to being a creator, you're like, all right, what's the story here? And then you don't have to make it so hard on yourself. I think that's the problem, right? Because normally being a creator involves a lot of sacrifice, right? You're like painting the Sistine Chapel on your back, like paint dripping in your eyes and stuff. We think things that are monumental and powerful and even spiritual have to be hard. But honestly, like, you've done all the hard work already by having a life that allows you to tune in on these things and share with your audience, right? So that's the way I think about it. You're not cheating anything. You're just making it a heck of a lot easier. And for me, a father with 4 kids under 9 years old who actually likes going to the gym, why would I not use AI to get my content done faster?
Can I repeat back what I heard? And I want to make sure I understand the
Yeah.
way you view this. So, what you're saying is the magic, the thing underneath the thing is our awareness of the story and being able to snag something in a moment of time and going like, boom, that's something right there. And then taking that thing and being able to put it into a formula that can articulate what you experienced and being able to share it with the world. That saves time. That's not the magic. The formula is not the magic. It's your sensitivity to the moment. That's the magic.
There you go. Said it better than me. Yeah. And that's it. Yeah, really.
I like that. I like that a lot. Now, how to tell your story. They know their expertise is valuable, but they don't know how to tell their story. So, my daughter said something so cool to me the other day. We were in the car. She's 8 and she's I don't remember what she was talking about, but she made this statement. She goes, "Mom, my body told me one thing and my mind told me something else."
Mhm.
And I was like, "Damn." You know, grown-ups, we don't can't articulate sometimes the difference between our body and our mind, and they're both speaking to us. I was like, isn't that cool that an 8-year-old could notice that? And I was like, there's something there. There's a lesson there. There's a story there. There's something there. That's a lot of times where our inspiration hits us is like a moment where we get stirred, but putting that into a format, maybe your answer is let AI do that for you. But even if so, I think we need to understand context and the basics of it before, tell me if I'm off, before putting it into AI. What are some of those basic things people need to get when they have that little bit of inspiration? Their kid said something or whatever, and they want to share that. What's important to know about translation?
One thing I would say is details. When you have more
Okay.
details in your content, it feels more cinematic. So it's like, pretend it's like when you're signing your first like employment deal or whatever employment agreement. It's like, as they slid the paper across the desk, I picked up the blue pen. Like I could hear the click so loud as I was about to sign my life away. You know what I mean? Like
Mm,
it's like when you double click and make people feel like they're actually there. And I think that's why people don't do a good job of storytelling. They'll just tell what happened, but there are not enough contextual clues to let people feel like they were there in the moment.
mm,
So again, when I'm doing my AI prompts, I'll say, make this cinematic, make it story driven
mm,
by double
mm.
clicking on the details involved in this stuff. And when you do that, first of all, it further can, it feels even less like AI because it's like, wow, that was very specific. And then beyond that, again, it draws the reader into your content more.
What's too much?
Your audience will tell you that. I mean, if you're, and there's probably like some kind of like benchmark, like, hey, if your post is over this many characters, it sucks, or if your video is this
Yeah.
long, it sucks, so on and so forth. But your content should be as long as possible. Sorry, as long as necessary and as short as possible. So I'm not going to like give like a bullet point, like how much to share, how much to share. If you feel like you're droning on and the next line you wrote does not necessarily add to the story, it actually just confuses people, then take it away. I would say aim towards brevity, especially during in the beginning. And if you want to have longer form content, start a newsletter, right, or a YouTube channel, whatever makes sense to you. But I think the most important part is to get started, and then from there
Yeah.
do some tweaks.
Yeah. So the whole boring element, we're afraid that our lives are boring, or maybe what's extraordinary to us isn't going to be extraordinary to other people. I had somebody the other day tell me, I'm afraid that people will get bored hearing about my life.
Mm-hmm.
Am I interesting enough? And I think that's a fair question because I think we all worry about that. What does Terry think of me? Am I interesting and funny and entertaining and likable and all of that? Um, Walk me through just the mindset around that piece because, again, me telling you what my daughter said that just sent chills all through me, you may be like, "Pfft."
You have to get real with yourself. Are you actually interesting in person? Some people aren't. They're just not. And I'm not trying to be rude, but like,
You make me laugh.
but you know what I mean? Like when you go to events or parties, are you actually interesting? Or are you just like sitting there nodding your head, letting someone else lead the conversation? If that is the case, then you got to do some groundwork. You have to become more
Mm,
interesting. Like, I don't know, take a Toastmasters or improv acting or something. I don't know what it is, but it's like, this shouldn't be new to you. If what I'm saying is like, yeah, that's me. Like, it shouldn't be new to you. So you're not gonna be able to tell us better stories online if you're not telling them in person either. So do some work on yourself and just kind of get clear on who you are and who you want to show up. That's the personal brand side, I guess. But that's the part that people have to start with. But even if you are cool on that, like just realize that the stories you're telling don't have to be phenomenal to be interesting. It doesn't have to be dramatic. Like right now, I'm at home, I'm in my office. This person just walked by my building. And for a while, I thought it was this guy, Glenn, who booked a sales call with me, but just ghosted me. So every time I saw this guy walk by who just walked by, I would get annoyed at Glenn. And then one day I realized that's not Glenn. And then I finally reached out to Glenn. And he's like, hey, man, sorry, I didn't get back to you. I actually got a full time job, so I'm all set. So that can be the story. Like I've been pissed at Glenn for 6 months. Every time he's walking by my apartment dissing me, then I finally reach out and I find out like Glenn got a job and that's why. So like there could be some story behind that, how you think one thing is going on inside your head. And it's actually not the case. Is this happening to you? Blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like it's just that. So if you can't find things that are interesting, maybe not to that degree, then that's why you're not telling good stories. So just like read a book or do something like that's, I mean, it sounds like kind of crass, but that's what I would say.
no, I think it's hilarious because it's true. Does this play into? I read somewhere that you either advocate use, but the term savage alter ego. I've ran across that term with you. So when
Yeah.
let's say I'm boring or I'm shy or whatever. We had Todd Herman on a few months ago who wrote Alter Ego Effect, and I could geek out over an alter ego all day long.
Yeah.
But is that part of the deal? If I'm scared, do you advocate for alter egos?
Yeah, there is, because like anybody who's a speaker and a consultant and does whatever will tell you like they have different personalities for different contexts. So the way you behave on stage is not going to be the same as you would on a podcast. Like right now, I know I'm on a podcast, so I'm like enunciating more. I'm trying to say tweetable one-liners so people can like listen to that and go follow me. You know what I mean? So it's like that's one thing you have to realize initially, and then
Mm,
once you do from there, it just becomes a bit easier to say, hey, this is the version of myself I have to be right now to make the point that I have. And it's like,
mm,
if you didn't know how to help people, if you were underqualified, I'd be like, okay, I understand why you're staying quiet. But if you actually have skills, if you can actually help people, which is like 98% of people listening right now, it is a disservice to yourself as well as those you could help to not be more bold and talk more about it. So that's where it comes from. It's like, like what is staying quiet going to do for me? It's going to hurt me and the people that I could help. So that's what I would encourage people to go in on. And like, here's an easy way to get started, right? Think of a movie that everyone likes that you hate, like Shawshank Redemption. I could say, like, you know what? Shawshank Redemption was overrated. That's going to be the beginning line of my post. And then I'll go on to like saying like why you can't always go along with the crowd, like why you have to have
mm.
unpopular opinions. You're better off being a culture ad than a culture fit, so on and so forth, right? But like the bold statement I'm making, the personal statement I'm making is Shawshank Redemption sucks. And I'm waiting for
Mm.
everyone to come after me once I say that, because then I get more engagement for that and more comments, so on and so forth. So do you see how easy it is though? Like when you're just like thinking from that lens, like you don't have to have a phenomenal story, just an interesting way of telling something that other people might have overlooked.
Yeah. I think it comes back to just, we think about what are other people going to be interested in, but really it's about us becoming more interested in life. Like, are my eyes wide open? Am I listening and hearing? Am I being captured by stuff? Because there's stories everywhere. I want to press into the alter ego just a little bit more, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Do you use one? How do you help? Like, what would you say for people who are curious about using an alter ego? How does that work tactically?
Yeah, it's just you. Well, first of all, there's a few things. The first thing I would do is not just try to hype myself up, like, oh, I'm going to Savage Terry mode. What you want to do, I got this from my friend Dr. Michael Gervais, who's a high performance psychologist, is you want to jot down what he refers to as epic thoughts. And this is you reminding yourself of difficult things you've overcome in the past, which have prepared you to take on
Mm,
more challenges in the future. So,
mm,
for example, I made my varsity football team when I was like 14 years old, even though we were ranked in the States, something like that.
mm,
That's an epic thought that tells me I can compete with the best in the world and still come out on top. So I would ask everyone to first of all like get these epic thoughts down, because confidence comes from past experiences, not pep talks or motivational posters. So do that first. And then when it's time to shift into that alter ego, you can shift into the same person who accomplished all those things in the past, right? You don't
mm.
have to become anyone new. You're just activating something that's already within you and saying, you know what? If I can make the varsity football team when I'm 14 years old, I can get this damn report done. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
or I can go pitch this client that I was afraid to reach out to, or I can, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it comes from past experiences, and you express that confidence today by being more savage in what you do.
So you're saying, because the way I've always thought of alter ego is I want to be more like Oprah. So I'm going to act like Oprah does,
Mhm.
versus what you're saying is you're reaching back into your past self and using that as your alter ego, not Oprah.
Yeah, and you can use Oprah too if you want, but that's really what it is. It's like there is real proof of this. I'm not just hyping myself up. Like I'm just saying like, oh, I'm gonna be like Oprah and like have cool hair and do this. It's like no, I've done this before. I'm gonna push for it and do this, and maybe I'll have some swagger like Oprah if that helps or whatever. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, because we're kind of getting into a different concept, but I feel like people who are actively seeking mentors and can't find them need to realize you can be mentored by anyone just by studying their patterns and their behavior to understand
Absolutely.
their mindset and the advice they might give you. So when you're going through this, if you want to channel like Oprah for one thing, if you want to channel Lewis House for another thing, you can combine six people and make yourself. I call them identity templates. But then again, whenever you're channeling any kind of confidence, you do want to go to your actual past experiences.
All right, going back into storytelling, because I could go down the alter
Yeah.
ego rabbit hole with you. I heard you say that you need to start off understanding yourself and then understanding your audience. What tools do you use to understand yourself a little bit more? It seems it's wild how we can spend. I'm almost 40, and I feel like I'm just now getting to know myself for the first time, and there's still so many question marks around it. But what's your favorite tools to go to?
Yeah, I like the Ikigai exercise. It's this Japanese technique of finding the
Hmm.
intersection of what you enjoy, what you're good at, what the world needs, what you can get paid for. So that's a really good start. And I think do that with an open mind. And that's the problem is like so many adults suffer from identity foreclosure. They're already clear on their identity. Like, I am an accountant. It's like, well, maybe there's some other things you could have done if you had explored
Yeah.
yourself a bit more. So this is the hard part. This is the really hard part of getting clear on who you are, because I know what it's like when you don't do that. Because before I started talking about more personal things, I had a brand. I mean, I was on like Good Morning America. I was speaking at Social Media Week. I had a brand, but the things I was talking about were just kind of boring as shit to me these days. It's like marketing and like business, how to price yourself and stuff like that. Like, that's important, but my voice is not needed in that conversation, and that's why my brand just
Hmm.
felt inauthentic. So
Hmm.
I know I'm kind of bouncing around here a bit, but like that's why it has to start there, because then when you are telling stories, even the more challenging ones, you're doing so with conviction because you know why you're telling it. But you can
Mm.
tell a great story that you don't give a crap about, and it's going to fall flat, at least even in your own heart, if you don't care about the stuff.
Let's go back to that. I think
Mhm.
that is a really important point. You said that you had already seen success, built a brand around a very tactical thing. And it wasn't until you started bringing in more of the personal stuff did you feel more aligned. I think it's an interesting point to think about that we can build something that works, but it still be completely out of alignment from what I use the word called, what we're
Yeah.
called to do. And I actually wrote this down the other day on my computer and I've been wrestling with it. It's just a very simple question. It says, what do people need right now and how can I fill that need? Um, most of my work is really tactical, but God has just been really pushing on me lately, like Heather, digging a little deeper, digging a little deeper, digging a little deeper. And it's actually pulling me away from the tactical and
Mhm.
into some of the more I'm a spiritual woo, fill in your feels gal.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
should have warned you at the beginning,
No, you're good. Yeah.
um, but man, there has been a lot of fear coming up in me. Not necessarily sharing the stories, but some of these stories like draw a line in the sand. It's kind of one of those things where I feel like when I open certain doors, there's no going back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I guess this is a messy question. When you're kind of at that point, maybe God's calling you to another level of your message, or you're feeling, unsatisfied in your work right now, and there's like a deeper level there. It feels like career suicide
Mhm.
a little bit. And I don't know if you felt that way being more vulnerable with your stories and stuff. Right now on your website, you don't have marketing on your website that much.
Mhm.
Like it's more about resilience and some of the stuff. So did you have to change your brand after you told these stories?
Short answer, yes, but let's kind of go into like the apprehension that goes into expressing these things, like feeling like it's career suicide, things like that. Like, I heard this saying before, like boredom is just depression spread out real thin, and I think about that. Like, there are
Wow.
times I was just bored with my work,
Wow.
and it's like really, it's because I was upset with myself or depressed. Like, that's really what I was doing with my life, with all the tools and experiences
Wow.
and like guidance I could be sharing. I was like, oh, here's like come with pricing for your website. You know what I mean? It's like, what the hell, dude? So it's like there should be an almost pain that you're feeling that in the limited experience, is relieved by sharing these stories. And then
Wow.
from there, I think things will just line up and you know what you should share and what you shouldn't share.
When you realized you wanted to go a little bit deeper, did your business model change or was it just your positioning? Like tactically, how did that start looking when you started kind of digging more into Terry's experience as a human and kind of getting away from the marketing guru stuff?
Yeah, yeah. The business model changed only that I was getting a lot more brand deals than before. So
Really?
just by
Okay.
just by showing my personality, companies are more likely to say, "Hey, we want to pay you money to do whatever it is." Like I get paid to create content for brands, like even like video content like this. I'll just interview people and get paid for that. So that's why, I said it earlier, that's how you get paid for who you are, not just what you do. So I have a large amount of like revenues coming from that now, whereas like
Mm.
3 years ago I was maybe making like $5,000 a year off brand deals, and now it's multiple six figures, so it's going pretty well. But also the people that reach out to me and why they reach out to me for coaching is totally different. It used to just be like, oh, how do I, make money with my business? Now it's like, you know what? I'm out of alignment. Like, can you teach me, like, how do you even like structure your day so that you're getting all this work done? You're still going to the gym. You're still like coaching your kids' football teams and stuff like that. How does that happen? So I'm lucky to be doing more lifestyle design for people now, where they first
Hmm.
again get clear on their identity and then their vision and then their rituals. Because I've been able to interview a bunch of famous people. It doesn't really matter who, but like a bunch of famous people who, and what I've realized is they've all become successful by a simple three-step process: identity, vision, rituals. They got very clear on who their identity was, like what lights them up, what they care about, like the contribution they want to make to the world. And then from there, and that's the deep work everyone avoids. From there, they got clear on their vision. Based on this talent I have, on this drive, here's what I want to do. Lastly, they got clear on their rituals. For me to live in that vision, what lifestyle do I have to live? And that's it. So it's identity, vision, and rituals. And that's what I like coaching people through. And that's what I'm allowed to do a lot more now because I'm open with my brand in a way that I wasn't before.
What was the hardest of those three for you to master?
It's identity. That's the easiest one. That's the
Identity.
hardest one because if you are not clear on your identity, you could have a vision, but it's like the vision someone else gave you, whether society, your
Mhm.
family, or whatever. And you can have rituals. What are you doing every day? But it's going to feel like a damn grind if you're not doing what you actually love. So the identity thing, it goes back to, we don't really have malls in New York City, but like imagine you're going to a mall, like when you're a kid or whatever. You will go to the mall, there's a Gap there. And at the Gap, there are mannequins in front with cool outfits on. If you buy that outfit, you will go to school and you'll look okay, right? Or you can go inside the store, dig around a bit more, and find something that more reflects your personality. That is hard. That is risky. That is time consuming. Therefore, most people avoid it and just go buy the clothes off the mannequin. But unfortunately,
Yeah.
if we're talking about identity in your life, you're then now set down this path where your vision and your rituals are decided for you based on that identity that you never even wanted. So what I'm saying is you have to sit in the confusion long enough to find the clarity instead of just looking for like the easy out, which is going to be the outfit the mannequin is wearing.
Damn. I've always ran to the understanding your audience piece first over understanding Heather first because I think it was
Mhm.
like a scapegoat because I can sit here and come up with women in their 30s who grew up in Arkansas who blah, 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 you know what I'm saying? As opposed to mining for those stories that have made me who I am and getting really, really clear and deep on that. And then tell me if I'm off on this. It becomes clearer and clearer who that audience is for because I'm so freaking clear on who I am.
You got it. So between Ikigai, there's another one called Life's Task, which is by Robert Greene, the guy who wrote 48 Laws of Power. And by the way,
Mhm.
I have AI prompts that help you walk through all this stuff. Between those two, that's where you get very, very clear on it. Now, the reason why most programs won't sell you on that is because that's the hard part. Like, I can tell you, okay, who's your audience? And then like I can figure out like some kind of BS plan from there. But the hard part is saying, do you actually want to do this stuff? Are you
Mm.
sure? Instead of being a coach, maybe be better being a public speaker. Instead of creating courses, maybe you're better off running a mastermind so you can get like more intimate with these women or whatever it is, so on and so forth. So that is the hard work that most people avoid. Yet I won't work with anyone who doesn't have that level of clarity anymore. I'll either help them get it or they have to come to me with it. But I'm just
Yeah.
done working with people who just want me so they can learn how to make more money. It's like, no, let's just get down to like the roots first and then
Mm.
build a good
Amen.
foundation. Because for me, now I know I'm not impacting just your business, but it could be your family, your community, like everyone around you.
As a storyteller, as a communicator with AI in my hand, and we are using the baby tools right now, man. Like, like we can even scratch the surface. What would you advise us as storytellers, communicators to really sharpen within ourselves to really use AI more efficiently in the years to come? Like, what are the skill sets that I need to get so freaking good at? We talked about being more curious throughout your day and capturing stories. Is there anything else?
It's just systems, really, because I think as storytellers, at least I'm kind of sloppy with my systems because like I'm more interested in telling the story than making sure that I'm repurposing it and distributing it on these platforms and having a call to
Mm,
action and all this stuff. So I think sometimes we're so
that's
obsessed
not a
with
bad
telling a
thing.
story that we don't actually make money from it. So you don't want to be a starving artist who like just like gets reward from creating this content. You have to have a system behind it.
Yeah.
So that was the hardest part for me to actually do. Now I have like prompts and stuff to build that out. But I would also say this to any knowledge based entrepreneur who's listening. Yes, get good at storytelling and stuff, but find a way to productize your knowledge through some kind of like AI agent or a system of like custom GTP prompts or whatever, because that's where things are going. People just want access to your brain. They don't necessarily need it in real time. So that's what I'm building out right now. I'm building out an AI agent that has all my information in it. So based on
Hmm.
YouTube being able to get paid speaking gigs or create your offer, whatever it is, you can just ask the thing and it'll tell you. Then if you want to meet with me later to talk about the results, cool. But moral of the story is right now we should all be thinking about how we can turn our knowledge into a product, even though it might feel kind of painful because we have a love for helping people. Like that's the way things are going, and you can still use that to supplement your coaching or your training or whatever it is. But that's what I think we should all be looking for, is like how can we adapt to the future by having these AI agents not just work for us, but work on our behalf with our clients as well.
Good. Wrapping up here, what is something around making your stories less boring, being braver with your stories that you wish I would have asked you about, but I didn't?
I think it's, well, where do you even keep your cup filled with creativity, with interesting content, with anything like that? And I would
Mm,
say block off even an hour a week to get exposed to new things, like new podcasts, like new books, whatever it is. Because often what I'll do is I'll take a story that I already have and I'll combine it with a third party's framework. And then all
mm,
of a sudden it's even more powerful. Like this person has this framework on how to do this. Here's an example of how I actually put that into action. Here's how you can do it as well.
mm.
So just find new and interesting frameworks or stories to share, combine them with your own, and then share that back with your audience. You will never run out of content, and you also won't bore yourself by talking about yourself the whole time.
Can you give me a more tangible example of how I would do that?
Yeah, there's this concept of having what's called like a scruffy dinner party, and I read about it in this book called 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Berkman. Essentially, this couple decided that they were not going to clean up when they had people over for dinner anymore, and they were not going to spend a lot of time like prepping for it because it put too much pressure on them. And they realized as a result of that, they had more people over. It was a lot more fun, and they just had fun, like just creating what was ever in the cabinets of their home. So the story that I told was with my niece, who's like the family member that visits the most because I don't have to clean up when she comes over. She used to live with me when I was younger. So it's like she knows me, I know her. That's why she comes over more. And the moral of that story is, how are you making it easier for people to interact with you, right? How are you making
Mm,
it easier for people to want to engage with you, to have a good time, so on and so forth. So again, that concept I got from Oliver Berkman's book. It was either 4,000 Weeks or Meditation for Mortals. And he shared a concept that he heard before called the scruffy dinner party. And now I'm resharing it
yeah.
through my lens as well. But that was one of my most like read newsletters in regards to comments, and people replying, as well as the social media content as well.
Steal like an artist. That's what
There
that
you
is.
go. I probably have that book behind me somewhere, but yeah, you got it.
Oh man. Listen, I have a final question for you, but you didn't have to do this. You didn't have to say yes to some random southern girl on the internet, but you did, and I'm so grateful for not only your time today, but your willingness to be seen and for your bravery of sharing your story and being willing to go there. You didn't have to, but I know that the ripple effect is huge and you may not fully ever know it. So thank you for your work, the work you're going to continue to do. Where can people connect with you and grab, I would say, these AI prompts? Because I know everybody's ears perked up when you said that.
Yeah. Yeah. Best place would be hitting me up online at LinkedIn, just my name, Terry Rice, to search for that, or Instagram at It's Terry Rice, and let me know. I can send you a link to get all these prompts. So yeah, that'll be where to go.
You like Jerry Ross?
No, but it's funny when well, yes, I like him. And when I played
You
football,
hurt my feelings.
I used his number 80. So when I scored a touchdown, it sounded like number 80, Jerry Rice. And Shaquille O'Neal was actually joking around with me about that as well. So you and Shaq got something in common.
That's right. Jerry Ross, man, growing up, that was my idol. Very last question. What is something in your life right now in this season that you're deeply questioning? It could be something deep, it can be something small, but what's been on your mind lately that you have a big question mark around?
I'm getting more clarity around it, but it's like, what is success? And
Mm.
and that question was highlighted when I was with my kids. Like I was like on the couch with them watching some Marvel movie. I had one kid under one arm, one kid under another, and I was like, honestly, my life could not be any better right now.
Mm.
It just couldn't be any better. I'm on a
Mm.
couch. I am warm. I'm with my kids. I'm watching TV, and like we're all enjoying this. So
Mm.
I think my question, like, what is success? Like, it's found in the moments between the moments, because I think we're often chasing these big things when you get that deal, that speaking
Come
gig,
on.
that job, or whatever. But the majority of your life is the moments between those big moments. And if you can learn to like hone in on that and enjoy it, then you'll have a good life. So for me, success is watching a Marvel movie with my kids. Tomorrow might be something different, but it doesn't have to be those big things anymore. And I'm
Mm.
just, it's funny talking to people about that, because like just like you, I get pitched by coaches who are like, "Oh, let me help you 10x your business." I'm like,
I
you know what, I'm
know.
actually okay. Like for what I'd have to sacrifice right now with 4 small children to 10x anything, I'm like, bro, I'm good. Like my bills are paid. So that's the question mark that was over my head, and that's where I'm arriving at with the answer.
I felt that in my bones. I had some marketer person DM me. They're like, "Would you like to work from home?" And I'm like, "I do."
Yeah,
Like, "Would you like to be in control of your time?" I'm like, "I am."
yeah,
Like everything she came back with, and it's not like I'm a multimillionaire famous person or anything, but I'm like,
yeah.
all those needs are met, and it's so easy to forget that, in the culture we live in. So you're a good dude. I'm so grateful for your time. Thank you for this. This is awesome.
Thanks. Great chatting with you as well.